Welcome to the Love Doc Podcast. I am your co-host, Raina Butcher, here with our host, Dr. Sarah Hensley, the owner and CEO of The Dating Decoder.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I haven't really gotten to see you this week or talk to you this week.
We are usually together a lot.
Yeah. So this is our catch-up session.
Yes.
Today.
For sure.
So episode 14.
Uh-huh.
And today's episode is why we choose the partners we choose.
Yes. We are very predictable.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know that better than anybody.
Yeah. So people are very confused and confounded about why do I keep picking the same person over and over again, or picking the same type of person over and over again. And I'm like, because your subconscious is one giant self-fulfilling prophecy. So whatever is embedded into your subconscious or what was imprinted there in childhood is what you will seek out in adulthood. So this really corresponds to attachment style, and your attachment style will generally predict the type of partner that you will choose.
Yeah.
And so if you know your own attachment style and you can start doing the work and you can start earning your security, secure always attracts secure. And then insecure attracts insecure. So actually in psychology, it's birds of a feather flock together. That's really what's true, right? And people think, no, that's not true. Opposites attract.
Right.
And it's like, well, it depends on how you look at it. So insecure attracts insecure, but they usually have the opposite type of insecurity.
Right.
Okay? So there's a nuance there. Birds of a feather. Why can't I say that? So birds of a feather flock together.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Birds of a feather flock together in terms of generally secure attracting secure and insecure attracting insecure. But when you get into the nitty-gritty of what types of insecures attract each other, it tends to be the opposite insecurities that you hold.
That's why you see in your practice that FADA dynamic so much, more so than any of the others, correct?
Correct. And the FA with the narcissist is huge too. Because if we dig into the FA, the fearful avoidant had trauma, right? Even if it's little t trauma, they usually had a dysfunctional parent or parents. And what was imprinted into the subconscious of the fearful avoidant is love is not safe. Love means getting hurt or being betrayed. Being close to someone doesn't feel good. It can be filled with a host of problems. And so the FA ends up getting imprinted with this giant betrayal wound where they can't really trust anyone at a subconscious level. So they always have this competition going on inside of them. They really want love and they want intimacy, but they're terribly afraid of betrayal or getting hurt, which is so much different than abandonment.
Yeah, everything you say about the FA, I'm like, oh,
we're like, that is me.
That's me.
Yeah.
And it's, I chose really terrible partners up until Josh.
Same.
And, my whole family used to say, well, your picker's broken. Your picker's broken.
FAs have a majorly broken picker.
Yep. Mine definitely was.
Well, I mean, so do all the insecure attachments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be drawn to people that have problems if you have problems, right?
Yep.
And I always come across people that are like, I'm super securely attached, but I picked a DA and I've been in a relationship with him for 4 years and he doesn't meet any of my needs and I've been so miserable in this. And I'm like, you are not secure.
No, you would have been gone.
A secure person would have gone, ew.
Yeah.
Probably in the dating phase.
Yeah.
And have been like, ugh. So I actually just had this conversation with one of my beauty providers. I won't call out who she is. She's so amazing. Such a sweet and beautiful young lady. And she keeps picking these men that are just crap. They're either severely dismissive, avoidant, or narcissistic. Same thing.
Yeah.
And of course, we figured out she has FA attachment. I'm talking to her the whole time. She's providing services or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just don't get why I'm doing this. And
it's
I'm
that
like,
mystery too of you see these really beautiful people.
So beautiful.
And they keep picking these major losers. And you're like, how? Why?
Yeah. And it's because
it's attachment wounds.
It is attachment wounds.
It doesn't discriminate against beauty.
No, gosh, no. That would make life easier for a lot of people if it did. But so the subconscious has to seek out what it didn't get in childhood in terms of its own happy ending. So if you believe on a subconscious level that love is unsafe, love is chaotic, love means being hurt, you can't trust anybody, you are going to seek out individuals that will betray you, that will make you feel that level of, not feeling safe, that will disappoint you, that will not be reliable, that will let you down, that will hurt you, that will cheat on you. Why? Because that is what you know love to be. So when you meet that person, first of all, the red flags are there. And instead of being repelled by them, they create an anxiety fear response, which the person mistakes for chemistry and excitement, because fear and excitement have the same feeling, right, in the body. So they think they're excited. Ooh, this new person, they're so attractive. They're so fun. They have all these things in common with me. But they have a few red flags. Maybe they said something off color. They were rude, or they did something, or they didn't get back to you in a message, or they canceled a date last minute or something. And instead of going, ugh, like that wasn't cool. I don't think I like that. I don't think I want to be with that. I think that's a bad sign. That doesn't feel good. People, like if they have any type of anxious attachment, which would be the fearful avoidant or the anxious preoccupied, they're going to go, oh my gosh, like what's going wrong? I don't want to lose that attachment. I've got to fix it. I've got to be, the anxious preoccupied will go, I've got to be more of what they want. Yeah. I've got to figure out how to be what they want. The
and
fearful
it's like
avoidant.
They have to overcome it too. It's like this challenge to like make them into or mold them into what they want them to be. Because I know that like, with my ex specifically, it was like, I will not give up, right? It was like this undying love type of thing where I was like, I will not give up. Things will get better. He will change. I will make him change. Now, he didn't.
Because your subconscious was desperate for him to change for you, because then that would have subconsciously proved your worth. Right? That you were worth it for that person to change because you were that dang special. Right? And I think a lot of us, if we're talking about fearful avoidance specifically, in childhood had a dysfunctional parent, and deep down we were like, why can't you change for me? Why can't you be what I need you to be as a parent for me?
I feel that to my core.
Yes, me too. Absolutely. And so then when I would go and choose men, I would choose men that subconsciously would betray me, that I subconsciously, again, you don't have that level of awareness in your conscious mind. It's all below the surface, right? So it's hard to understand until you see your own patterns. You subconsciously pick up on this idea that they're going to betray you. And then subconsciously you're like, but if I get them to stop doing that and to become this good person who treats me well, then there's my happy ending I didn't get in childhood. Right? So the subconscious is looking for that completion as well. And it can get really, really tricky.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I feel like I relate so much to the anxious, attachment styles. But it's really the DA that fascinates most people.
Yes.
Like, why does the DA choose specific partners?
Okay.
The ones that they choose.
So we usually,
other than the opposite.
Right. So again, we do usually choose our shadow. So the subconscious is not only looking for the familiar, but for evolutionary reasons, it's also looking for completion. Okay. So there's this concept of trait variability in evolutionary psychology that says we are somewhat attracted to partners that have different traits that we don't inherently have, so that if we mate with them and we produce offspring, then they will have the better chance of survival because they have this trait variety, right? They have this diverse array of traits that is going to help them survive, right? So when you look at the dismissive avoidant, what does the dismissive avoidant subconsciously know about themselves? They know that they are not warm. They know that they are not open. They know that they are not super adventurous. They know that they're not nurturing. And their subconscious, especially at first, they're so attracted to the openness, the warmth, the kindness, the vulnerability of someone with more anxious attachment, being the anxious preoccupied or the fearful avoidant. They're very attracted to the warmth and kindness of the anxious. They're very attracted to the vulnerability and the openness of the fearful avoidant. But soon, when the relationship becomes high stakes and there are wounds around commitment, expectation, meeting people's needs, giving their time away, losing their independence, start to come up, which is what happens with longevity, then they start to get turned off by those things, right? The anxious person and the fearful avoidant, I would say that this is true for both of them. They are attracted to the stability and the reliability and the emotional control of the DA. So DAs present as very emotionally stable, especially in the beginning of relationships. And if they've been with a partner that's been narcissistic in the past and been very volatile in the past, the DA can feel very safe.
Yeah.
I know that was certainly true for me, coming out of my chaotic marriage with someone who had very high levels of narcissism
and
reactivity, and there was constant chaos. I went right into a relationship with a DA
where there was none.
There was none.
To the point where
he
you're
didn't get very mad.
Can I get something?
Right. He didn't get very upset. He didn't get very angry. It was all, it's no big deal. Everything's fine. Everything's good. But then I realized when hard moments came up in that relationship, he had no other response either than, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
There was no nurturing. There was no, and so although I looked and saw that there weren't the volatile traits, there was no empathy and warmth and nurturing and caring and all of that stuff either.
Which also didn't make you feel safe.
Nope.
Yeah.
And so the reason that, let's talk about the anxious preoccupied person.
Yeah.
The anxious preoccupied person got intermittent reinforcement of love, affection, and attunement in childhood. So sometimes their parents would give them what they needed, and other times their parents were distracted or absent and kind of left them hanging. What does the DA do to people? They're not really mean.
Right.
They're just neglectful. And when they feel up to it, they might pour into you a little bit, just enough to keep you feeling hopeful about the relationship, keeping you engaged in the relationship, only to withdraw, deactivate, turn away, take those needs away. So that is intermittent reinforcement.
Yeah.
So the AP is attracted to the DA because they get to repeat the intermittent reinforcement that they got in childhood. So your subconscious is going to seek out what happened to you in childhood and desire to get that happy ending.
It's so funny because, like, I think back to when I was with my ex, and my sister and I would, we would always be at odds because she would tell me to do something, and then I would do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And she would just be like, "Can you just not hear me and do what I say to do?" Because she had already reached her security, right?
Yeah.
Like, she was already with a secure partner, and she saw it for what it was. And I would just turn around and do the exact opposite.
Yeah, my brother practically disowned me at one point.
Yeah. My sister did too. We didn't speak for like 3 months.
Yeah. When I went back to my ex after we were divorced. Who does that? An insecure person, a very wounded individual.
Lots of people.
That's trauma bonded. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how many people get divorced and have what we call the death gasp.
Yeah.
Which is like they try to make it work after the divorce is final. My husband did it with his ex. I did it with my ex.
Think about the people who actually marry their ex more than once.
My great aunt was married 4 times to 2 different men. So she was married, got divorced, met and married her second husband, divorced him and remarried her first husband, divorced him and then remarried her second husband. No.
Stop.
Yeah, my great aunt Belda, God bless her soul, may she rest in peace.
She was like Elizabeth
Taylor?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
I think she did something very similar to that.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Elizabeth Taylor was married 8 times, I think.
Dang. At some point, when do you stop and look at yourself and go, I'm not good at marriage. I'm the common denominator in all these divorces.
Right.
Maybe I need to look at myself.
Elizabeth Arnold, I suppose, just didn't really she didn't care if she lost or not. She just was like, I love love. And, because I think that's sometimes the case too. People kind of view it as, well, I just love love and I love to love. I had an old, a friend that had been married 4 times, and that's what she would always say. Well, I just love love.
Well, you love the idea of love, or do you love healthy love?
Right.
And I think you love the idea.
Yeah.
But you don't have the capacity to sustain a truly healthy relationship.
Yeah, because she didn't choose good partners either.
No. And our choice in partner is the biggest predictor of your happiness on this earth.
100%.
There is so much data to support that who we choose to marry has the biggest impacts on our well-being over our lifespan.
Yeah,
because you don't really get, especially if you have children with them, you don't ever get away from them.
Nope.
And I learned that lesson the hard way.
So did I.
People that I'm close to, very, very close to, have learned that lesson the hard way.
My dad gave me this list of the 21 top things to be successful. This was years ago, and it actually sits right next to my desk. And I think it was like when I really got into like my career and working. And the number one thing is choose the right partner. It will determine the rest of these other 20 things. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the number one thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think in our situations, and so many people out there have the same situation, where it's hard to regret a relationship that was so abusive and so painful when children came out of them, and you love your children so much. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, without that person, I wouldn't have these people.
Yeah, nor would I be as dynamic and awesome as I am. Because I'm always like, people are like, oh, you have such a great personality. Why? And I'm like, oh, it's just because of all my trauma.
Yeah. You're like, my trauma has made me very adaptable. Yeah. It's made me very funny.
Yeah. Witty and all these things, So I can't regret it because of that too. And obviously because of my wonderful child.
Yeah. But there's a part that's hard to say, man, if I just would have done the work in my late teens, early 20s. Yeah. If I just would have done the work in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. My goodness. Because listen, I try to save a marriage at all costs if it can be saved. Mm-hmm. But there are some marriages that cannot be saved unless there's a direct intervention from God. Yeah. I'm not God. And I come across marriages sometimes where I'm like, this is not the best thing for you guys to proceed. Yeah. There's too much damage. Mm-hmm. There's too much insecurity. There's too much lack of compatibility. Mm-hmm. And just super lack of compatibility in general. Mm-hmm. And a past attachment security, right? We're talking about general, like you are highly religious and you are an atheist. Incompatibility, right? Where their value systems are so different. Yeah. That big. I'm like, you guys aren't going to get together. Like, you're not going to get it together because you're wanting him to come to Jesus and he doesn't want to come to Jesus, right? Yeah. And when you do come to Jesus and you have that relationship, you see the world through an entirely different lens. And the Bible does talk about being equally yoked and having somebody that shares a similar belief system. And
morals are a big thing that I feel like at a young age you really don't think about.
No.
You're just thinking about attraction. You're just thinking about chemistry.
Yep. And having fun.
And can you have fun together?
Yep. And do you get along? And and again, a big way to know if you're in a toxic relationship, if it's just all major butterflies in the beginning. It's all intense. It's excitement. It's addicting. That is bad news bears.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. That is your number one sign that this is about to turn toxic.
Yeah.
Because, and you know this, when you become secure and you meet a secure partner, it feels so different.
So different.
It feels like there are no better, like you're not nervous.
No, I still had some anxiety with Josh, but I think like I've talked about before, it's because I hadn't fully reached my attachment security. Like I was sort of on the cusp. I was getting there. Josh pushed me into that by making me feel safe.
Right.
But so I definitely had some anxiety because I was just nervous that I was going to lose it. I was going to, it was so good and I liked him so much and I saw how good of a person he was and I was like, wow, I'm attracted to this for the first time in my life. What's happening?
Right. Yeah. I think it was confusing for you.
It was very confusing. I was like, wow, I really like this good guy. But Josh was hard to read. Like I couldn't figure out at first if he was this really good guy.
Because he was attaching in an appropriate manner.
Yes, he was taking it slow.
Which is what secure people do. They attach in an appropriate way.
Yes, and that was very foreign to me.
You were used to love bombing.
Yeah, yes, yep, exactly.
Or the guy that wouldn't ever give you enough.
Yep. And so he was just like the right mix. Yeah. And I was like,
he was giving you just the right amount.
I was like, what is
the normal amount, the secure amount.
Yeah, what is happening here? And I can't seem to figure this guy out. When in all honesty, he was just showing up secure.
Yeah.
And it was that foreign to me.
And that's what I tell people. I'm like, if you or your partner has mild insecurities, and I think you were probably at the state where you had really worked on your healing journey. Yeah. You had taken a lot of time alone. Mm-hmm. You had poured into yourself. Mm-hmm. I remember that time in your life. Mm-hmm. And so you were getting there.
Yeah.
And when you're almost there, having a secure partner can sort of pull you the rest of the way. And so that's what I tell people. I'm like, if your partner has mild to sometimes even moderate insecurities, just you showing up secure can make a profound difference in the relationship. It's when we have people that are more on the severe side of their insecurity that it doesn't really matter what you do. They just are going to have to do their own work to be able to get to that secure place. And so I help people determine that.
Yeah. And that's huge.
How insecure is your partner?
Yeah. And speaking on, if going back to like, if you'd done all this and done all the work in your 20s, here's the benefit I think that things like social media provide that we didn't have in our 20s, right? Like social media wasn't as vast. Like it was just...
I didn't have Facebook until I was in graduate school.
Yeah. Like I remember like when MySpace came on the market, like I think I was in college, and then, so there's all this knowledge available, which makes the idea of a healing journey more acceptable. There just wasn't all this, witness value around that when we were in our 20s.
Yes.
All right. And so now it's more common to be like, okay, you know what, I may only be 22, but I'm going to invest in my healing journey.
Right. Absolutely. And then I think there's a small downside, which is that we're inundated with so much information. It's hard to know what's good information versus bad information. What's somebody's opinion that they're out there spouting based on their own personal experience, which gives them, in statistics, we would say an N of 1, a population of 1, versus what is all the data telling us, plus clinical experience of working with people. If you're going to choose a provider or somebody's philosophy, where does their philosophy come from? Because we have a lot of what are known as armchair psychologists, people that really don't have a degree, they haven't studied this, they've YouTubed a lot, they've just
it's so predominant in the coach world.
Oh gosh, because anybody can be a coach.
Yeah, anybody can be a coach. And I will say I know I'm your best friend, and I'm somewhat biased, but even if I wasn't, I really, really think, and I was in this field and I was doing this and I was, because I look at all your competitors and
thank gosh you do, because I don't like looking at my competitors.
Well, and here's what the conclusion,
I just don't like it.
The conclusion I've come to, and again, I can admit I have some bias.
Sure.
Because I know you on a deep level as well, and I know your heart, and I know your soul, and I know all these good things about you. But you don't offer just generic advice.
No.
It's backed by science. It's backed by all these, it's backed by so much knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's in a way, and I think this is something that really, really sets you apart in your business and as a coach, is that you are a true teacher. So you're able to take really complex information and make it available to everyone where they say, aha, right? Like these light bulbs go off and they get it. And that's a gift. I mean, that is truly a gift. You're not just, and not to call people out, but I'm like Jay Shetty, he has so much witness value and he has so many followers and he's such a big, in terms of the coach world, he's big.
Yeah.
And he just, a lot of it's just very generic. And not that you don't have these moments where you're like, oh, well, yeah, that was really profound, what he just said. But it's not really data-driven or scientifically driven. Yeah. And again, not to downplay, I'm not hating on Jay Shetty at all. I think, he provides the world with good things, and I advocate for that. But you really have a way to take knowledge, really concrete, good knowledge, and make it available to everyone.
Yeah, and what I think want the world to understand is that psychology is a rigorous scientific discipline. In fact, psychologists have the most rigorous scientific training compared to the, quote, hard sciences. Because, again, we're studying things that we can't see with our eyeballs. Right? We're studying people's thoughts, their emotions, their behaviors. And so we have to have ways of measuring those things that we are confident are valid and reliable measures.
Yeah, that's hard.
There's a whole scientific discipline called psychometrics where we create ways to measure psychological constructs, and we use statistics to make sure that the items, the questions on those assessments, or if it's observation or if it's an interview or whatever, we make sure that those items are measuring what they're supposed to measure and that they do so reliably over time. I get so angry when people are like, well, I took this attachment quiz online and it says I'm an AP, and they're clearly a DA.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't even know how that has no scientific value. Those are scam artists. I'm sorry, but If you are offering an online quiz and you have not done the psychometric work on that quiz to make sure that it is reliably and validly measuring what it is supposed to measure, you are scamming people.
Yeah.
That's why I don't offer a quiz.
Right.
People have like, can you make a quiz? Can you make a quiz?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it'll take me 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make you one. I can make a quiz, but I'm going to have to ensure the content validity by getting a panel of experts together to look at the questions. I'm going to have to conduct an array of statistical analyses. I'm going to have to look at past measures and see how my measure correlates with those measures that have already been created. I'm going to have to spend 2 years on developing this measure.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably going to have to submit it for peer review. So another body of scientists can check my work to make sure that I did it correctly and to make sure that I'm not falsifying my results.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we do in the scientific community.
See, right there. For anybody who's questioning her, you need to listen to this.
I taught graduate psychometrics for years.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you're not just throwing a bunch of crap out there and seeing, who wants to latch on to it. Like, you're not clickbait.
No, I'm not clickbait.
No.
And in some ways that can hurt me because then it takes a while for people to find me.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not just going to give you some just generic advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, here are the deeper reasons behind what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've run into a lot of coaches, and I've run into coaches who have come to me for mentorship that are selling snake oil.
Mm.
And I've had to be real honest and say, I don't agree with what you're telling people.
Yeah.
That's manipulation. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And kind of had to back away from some people.
Yeah. When you say snake oil, like, people are like, well, let me read you your horoscope, and this is what.
Or just.
Yeah, all those messages that you get that are like, look, I want to do your palm reading. It's not her.
It's not me. Okay.
It's not her.
There are a few individuals that I could probably link some of that to because they're predictable. But there's on social media, there's always people like, let me show you how to get your ex back in 5 minutes with this spell. Like, no, those don't work, people. Okay. Like, that's witchcraft, and no.
Yeah.
But the advice I give people and the interventions that I give people are evidence-based.
Yeah.
Meaning that they've been studied, they've been put through the test, they've been submitted for peer review, and they've been published. And, what does it mean to study science? I always say I've studied the science. Well, I was in a teaching university. So I was at a university that was heavily focused on teaching and not pushing their faculty to do research. Okay, so there's a difference. We have these big R1 research universities, which is where I was trained and where I graduated from. I graduated with my doctorate from the University of Kentucky, which is an R1 Research 1 institution. So I did a ton of actual doing research in graduate school, right? And then I was recruited by smaller teaching colleges because teaching was my passion. I liked teaching more than I liked actually conducting research.
Yeah.
But in order to teach, you have to read the science. And then what did I teach? My courses were research methods, statistics, psychometrics, dissertation research. So I was teaching people how to conduct research, which makes me very good at looking at research and going, is this good research or bad research?
Right.
Is this good science or bad science?
Yeah.
Is this from a prestigious journal or is this from a crap journal that's open access that anybody could publish
Right.
in? Right. So I'm able to look through the research and discern what are the quality scientific studies and what are the crap studies.
Yeah.
So that helps me sort of be able to judge the science, right? Now, there's other people that are in Research 1 universities, and they are actively collecting data, analyzing data, and publishing data. And I have done that, and I did a little bit of it, but I was at a teaching university. And so I am using, in my examples in the classroom, I'm using relationship science, right? But we're looking at the validity of the study. We're not necessarily focusing on the content. But it's more of like, I like to learn those things because I'm so interested in relationships. So I'm reading the journals, right? And I'm looking at the data. And when I went on my discovery to heal my attachment, that's where I went. I went to the science. Like, okay, what does this science have to say?
Yeah.
Because I first started out listening to these armchair people. Like, I know how to heal from narcissistic abuse because I was in a narcissistic relationship. It's like, okay, well, great that journaling worked for you, but journaling didn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
There are so many people that talk about shadow work. And now that I'm following, Dana Dozy, I still would love to talk to her in person and hope she can be a guest on our podcast. She's a big fan of shadow work. I didn't find a lot of value in shadow work.
I want you to explain shadow work because not everybody understands really what it is.
So shadow work is this idea that we all have a shadow. We all have traits within us that we have repressed, meaning that we learned at an early age that those traits were bad and that we shouldn't exhibit those traits, right? So like the DA learned that showing emotion is bad or weak, right? That's what is deeply ingrained into them. So if a dismissive avoidant was doing shadow work, they would have to acknowledge that there's this part of them that carries shame around expressing emotion. And if we have that knowledge, then we can kind of be able to heal it.
Right.
But I don't think that's the only way of getting there. I think knowledge only takes you so far. I had a ton of knowledge and zero capacity to change.
Yeah.
And so why was that? It's because knowledge in and of itself doesn't bring healing. Knowledge may lead you to the tools, and the tools to build your capacity to be a different person lead to the healing.
Yeah.
And that's what I give people.
Yeah.
Give people the tools.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of coaches are still just stuck in giving knowledge.
Right.
No, it's like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I know. Yes. Okay. I know this thing about myself, right?
Yeah. And
how
I
do I
feel
change
like that's a big thing that comes out of therapy is okay, I've processed, I understand all these things about myself now, but how?
Right.
But now how? How do I get
what
to
is
this?
the how?
Yes.
And that is what I provide people because that was the biggest missing piece that was so frustrating for me. I was constantly looking for how.
How?
Okay, so I picked these partners because of, what I learned in childhood about love. Great.
Now how do
I change my instinct?
How do I not
to not be
attracted
to those people?
Yeah.
How do I stop my visceral attraction to narcissistic individuals? Right?
Yeah.
And it was hard work. And so, shadow work can be a little bit beneficial. Like, let me give you an example. I have this couple that I'm coaching right now. And when I first met them, I thought they are divorce land. Like, I don't see any shape or way that this could work. And then I've started meeting with them individually. And when I see them outside of their couplehood, I see such a different side to them. They're triggering each other so bad that they're exhibiting traits that are so far down the spectrum from then who they really are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're launching into, they're so triggered and so traumatized by their partner that they're behaving in ways that are really probably outside the norm of who they really are.
Yeah.
And so, and those are desperate ways to try to seek safety. So let me give you an example. So the husband, he's a louder guy. He's a boisterous guy. You can tell he's just like, well, I'm just passionate. And I hear that from a lot of men that tend to get reactive in conflict. The FA guys.
That's always my excuse too. I'm just passionate.
Yeah. Right? It's like, you're passionate, okay, but what's really happening is that you have learned somewhere down the line that seeking dominance gets you safety. That being the louder one, being the more dominant one, being the more aggressive one lends you some safety.
Right.
So your nervous system is attempting to seek safety through being superior.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the superior one in any fight is going to be the winner.
Yeah. I can give the perfect example of this that just happened to me the other day with Josh.
Okay.
And I think it has a lot to do with my birth order, too, is that, so I'm the baby of 4. So I spent my entire life, right, trying to
defend
myself and really, try to, see where I fit. And there was always heavy competition. We were all athletes. We were all, we're all still in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And
you're very close.
Yeah.
Family.
We're very close. But I still feel like my sisters are in competition with me. Anyway, if Rachel listens to this, she's going to get mad. But
sorry, Rachel, please don't be mad at Raina.
Sorry, Rach. But so anyway, the other day, I bought nesting boxes for my chickens, right? Because they're about to lay eggs. And I'm putting...
Oh my gosh, you guys, these chickens.
I'm putting
Chickens
together,
will take over your life.
Yes,
apparently.
they will. But I'm putting these nesting boxes together. And it's very simple, right? It's not even hard. But it does require, a drill and some screws. And, I'm very used to doing things on my own and being like hyper independent. And so Josh, is sitting there and he's trying to help, because I'm just going to town on that drill and like stripping the screws, right? Because they're not going in. He's like, honey. And I immediately am offended. Like, and I get all like I'm like, then what am I doing wrong? Tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm not doing anything wrong. Because this was my whole life, right? It was like if somebody that was superior to me, like a sibling, like an older sibling would try to come in and try to tell me to do something right, I felt this need to have to like exert this dominance, right? To show that no, I was capable. No, I can do this. No, I'm not just this little baby that everybody has to take care of. Even Josh was like, calm down. Because I learned at a very young age that if I exerted that dominance, if I was the louder one,
then you were
if I was the more like successful one, if I was better at this, basketball than my other sister, then I would be loved more, right?
Yeah, you would be loved more. You would be accepted more.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, love and acceptance is safety.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, we are meant to live among one another. We are meant to be in relationship with another. And so love and acceptance for human beings equals safety. Belonging.
Yeah.
Think about evolutionarily why that's beneficial.
Yeah.
If you are alone, you're a loner,
right.
You're not going to have access to as much resource, right? As many resources as someone who's in the group,
right?
Where multiple people are contributing.
Yep.
And so, if we are rejected, we're not safe.
Yeah. Feels bad.
Right. And so this client, when I told him that, he broke down in tears. He was like, "You're right." He's like, "You're so right. That is what I've been doing my whole life. I've been trying to be the louder one so that I'm heard, because if I'm heard," because he's FA, the deepest need is to be heard, seen, understood. He's like, "Because if I'm heard, then I'm safe.
Yeah.
If I'm understood, then I'm safe, and then I can be accepted."
Yeah.
And that happens through reactivity and aggression and the loud voice and the demand
those
to be
moments
heard.
are so beautiful when you get to see that in a client.
It really is.
Because that's when their perspective shifts, and that's when change can really happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I talked to him about, because they were very gung-ho about individual coaching, and I was like, cool, my price. If you want to pay it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely be glad to work with you.
Yeah.
But I get the opportunity at the individual level to really look at all the ways that his nervous system is trying to feel safe.
Yeah.
And all of the negative adaptive behaviors that have come out of the desire to seek safety on that real visceral nervous system level.
Yeah.
And why those things aren't working for him. So that's where shadow work can come in a little bit. But again, you're just getting knowledge.
Right.
He may know now, okay, I yell when I feel threatened because I use dominance as a way to try to seek superiority, therefore to be safe. So how do I stop yelling? Because I'm doing it before I even recognize it, right? That's where I come in.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, okay, well, we actually have to dive into the tools to make your nervous system more resilient so that you are able to stay in a regulated state where then your conscious brain comes online and you have the capacity to pause, to stop, to think, to breathe, to calm down even more. You don't have that yet. You're launching directly into a trauma response after your trigger. Like that. So what I help people do is deconstruct the trigger cycle, right? And build a resilient nervous system that can go, because when our nervous system is in what we call a ventral vagal state, which is a rest and digest parasympathetic state, our prefrontal cortex comes online. We increase our capacity for openness so we can have tolerance for other people's opinions and perspectives. We become curious instead of making assumptions. We become mindful of our own behavior, so that you have to be in that state to be able to execute secure behavior, right? Instead of going into a fight response, you're able to maintain regulation and say, deep breath here. This is a difficult moment. How do I want to respond to my partner here? let me be curious, let me be non-critical, let me try to approach them this way instead of being like, what in the hell's your problem? Right? We launch into that fight response so quickly.
Right. And I think, as hard as that is for the FA, it's even more difficult for the DA to recognize what it is that they're doing, because I can remember in my, my coaching experience, the DA would kind of look at you like you had three heads and you were like, oh no, this is a nervous system reaction. This is a trauma response. And they're like,
what? I feel fine. Right? But they're not fine because they're with this horribly anxious partner. They're getting criticized all the time that they're not giving enough. They are miserable inside of their relationship. They've become a ghost inside of their own relationship. They feel like I've just fallen out of love yet again, one more time. Can never find somebody compatible with me. Excuse me.
Or they just lose all hope that this is just how I am and I'm never going to change.
Yep, I am who I am. Love it or leave it. And that's such a sad space.
Yes, because, you're meant to grow your entire life.
You are. You never stop growing. You never stop learning.
No.
That's why,
I don't want to. I feel like
that's death. And I think it takes an enormous amount of arrogance to act like you know everything. I don't know everything in the relationship space.
No.
I don't know everything. I haven't read every study on relationships. That would be humanly impossible. There's millions.
Yeah.
I have my own niche, attachment theory, and researchers often get into a niche because you can't be an expert in everything.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Niches work really, really well on social media.
They do.
Yeah. And, and like you said at the very beginning of this podcast, the behavior is so predictable. And so when behavior that you talk about is predictable.
Humans are so predictable.
People really latch onto it because they're like, oh my gosh, this is how I feel. Finally, there's this explanation to what I've been doing. And so when they can relate, then they're hooked, right?
Yeah.
And then they keep watching, and the things that you say, they're like, again, all those light bulbs start going off and all the perspective shifts. And then they're like, wait, maybe I need to do some work.
Right. I hear all the time, you explained my relationship in one video when I've been researching what's been wrong for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Or somebody will say, wow, I've been in therapy for 20 years and I just basically got more out of the one video that you just posted than I have in 20 years of therapy.
Right. Yeah.
That's profound.
I'm not the only one out there doing this kind of work, but attachment is solid science. That's why I stick with it because I'm like, well, I like evidence-based stuff. I like to go with the data. I'm a data-driven person because I was trained as a researcher. And that's what makes me a little bit different. So clinical psychologists, yes, they have to go through, if they're coming out of an R1 university, they go through rigorous research training too, but not like we do. Not like the experimental psychologists. Research is everything to us. Data is everything to us. And there's an element of real life experience, and so my real life experience of working with people has also taught me a lot. But what I see really does line up with the science.
100%.
It's like, where did that data come from? The population.
Yeah. You're a triple threat, really, because you have your own personal experience. You have the research experience. And you have the teaching experience. She's the best.
Oh, thank you.
So listen, if you guys want to check out Dr. Hensley's services, you heard it here from me, someone who's not biased at all.
She's just my best friend.
That she is the best of the best. But I mean it. I really mean it. Just go check her out on all her social media platforms. Watch a few of her videos. More specifically, come and listen to a couple of these podcast episodes. Like, share, leave us a review, and just keep listening because we have so much more to come and we are so excited to be here. So until next time, peace, love, and perspective.